How did you survive attempted unaliving? My friends and I were attacked, and now I live with survivor's guilt. When I turned 18, I was out with a couple of friends, and we decided to pick up some food before heading back to my friend's house to stay the night. On our way back to my friend's house, we were walking along a road that we had walked countless amounts of times and were only a couple of minutes from reaching his house. I should note at this point, I had offered to carry my friend's bag with several cans of spray paint in it as he was complaining of getting back pain. I remember suddenly getting a distinct feeling of uneasiness and one of my friends shouting, "Run!" It was at this point that I looked over my shoulder to see what we were running from, saw two men and a dog running towards us from behind and began to run myself. I had only gotten to run for a few paces and felt a blow to the back of the head with something that made a wooden sound when it connected. I kept trying to move as one of the two men continued to hit me with what I can only assume was a small bat or broken pool cue, and saw the other man run past me after my two friends who had managed to get a head start. After taking a good few blows to the head and shoulders, I fell on the ground, and after a couple of swift kicks, the guy ran off after the dog they had with them. I was still conscious at this point and completely pumped with adrenaline, so I jumped to my feet, thinking, where the hell are my friends? And ran a few meters up the road to a gateway at the back of a school and saw my best friend lying face down on the ground. It didn't register for a couple of seconds, but the other man who had chased my two friends was standing with his face covered just staring coldly at me. He then moved towards me and hit me hard in the chest, almost breaking my ribs, and grabbed me with his other hand to pull me closer. He started reaching around me and hitting me in the back, but hitting my friend's bag instead, which had the tins of spray paint, and I remember hearing a hissing sound and smelling paint. The guy then took off after his friend and the dog and disappeared down the street. I looked up to see they were gone and instantly went to help my friend on the ground. He was lying there making wheezing and gasping noises, and I could see from the way he was lying half on half off the curbstone that there was blood coming from his eyes and his glasses were broken. I knew at that point that things were not good, and I got the strangest urge to pull his sweater and t-shirt up to check for injuries and saw puncture holes in his back. It then dawned on me that he had been stabbed and he needed medical attention. I rolled him over into the recovery position and screamed for my other friend to come out of hiding and call an ambulance. He had jumped over a fence and ran into the aforementioned school to safety. There was an off-duty firefighter who was walking home from a local bar at this time and ran over to help as he was first aid trained. I let him take over and he called one of his friends, who was a local doctor, to come around and help whilst the ambulance came. I then threw off my friend's bag, my sweater, and t-shirt into a pile on the ground and saw a puncture hole in my chest just at the bottom of my ribs and blood pouring out. I wrapped my t-shirt around me to soak up the blood as the emergency services arrived. I was bundled into an ambulance as the paramedics took my friend to hospital. My friend died in the hospital as one of the knife wounds had severed his aorta, and he had bled out from the inside. I discharged myself the next morning with a few stitches and spent the next 5 years trying to mentally recover from the event. Reflecting back on the events, I realized if I had not taken my friend's bag, then he would have been wearing it when they attacked, and he would not have taken the multiple stab wounds which unalived him. This is one thing that has weighed heavily on my mind ever since, and I have lost the best friend I ever had.